record something. There we go. All right.
Hi guys. So I'm going to be refuting the taxing of plastic bags in grocery stores, which is a little complicated. So there are trillions of plastic bags that are used worldwide every year. My advocate actually strongly believes that plastic bags should be taxed because of how much consumptions that we take every single day from grocery stores. She went on using evidence that supported that if we do tax plastic bags, it'll lower population, it'll stop hurting marine wildlife, and it'll even boost our economy. However, these are a few solid points, but just like with every situation, there's also two sides to each story. I will be showing that the truth regarding the taxation of plastic bags and what people tend to overlook. So for the first one, there's being able to tax plastic bags helps reduce the population in the air. On contrary to what she said that it actually increased pollution. And the reason I say it doesn't is because first off, people have a misunderstanding of what plastic bags are made of. Unlike other options of paper bags, plastic bags are actually better used because they are eco-sufficient, they produce less GHGs, and they have less reduction when they are emerged into the atmosphere. There's a quote released by Plastic Industries on Earth911.com stating, "Plastic grocery bags can be a resource-efficient choice. Plastic grocery bags require 70% less energy to manufacture than paper bags and produce half of the amount of greenhouse gas emissions in the process. They also use 0.05 of oil barrels that go into making of plastic bags. So once the plastic bags are burned, the amount of harmful GHGs that go into the atmosphere aren't as big as what they were originally thought out to be." My second point would be everyone's seen those commercials and advertisement where you see like big animals dying off of with plastic bags. However, she stated that if we do tax bags, it'll decrease the harmfulness used to killing off like marine wildlife. And you know, in theory, it is a good idea, but it's actually wrong. There's a very big misconception that plastic bags are the majority of the reason that marine wildlife is dying off. However, it's not plastic bags, it's plastic objects, such as fishing rods, ropes, everything like the majority of the things that you use for fishing, things like that. According to a study done in 1997 by David Lace, he said plastic bags don't figure in entanglement. The main culprit are fishing gears, ropes, lines, and strapping downs. Most mammals are too big to get caught up in plastic bags anyways. He continues by saying the impact of the bags on whales, dolphins, and seals range from little to very few. For birds, even plastic bags, these are not a problem. There are many other sources that have the same conclusion. There's another study done in 2002 from the Australian government, and they also attempted to place the blame on plastic bags to kill off their wildlife. And then in 2006, they released a statement saying that their accusations of plastic bags were incorrect. According to the SaveThePlasticBags.com, the author on behalf of the Australian government went on record saying that the author altered the report by replacing plastic bags with plastic debris, such as ropes. Another great source would be David Stiletto, who is a marine biologist at Greenspace. He told the Times that bad science has been undermined and the government's case for banning plastic bags or taxing, it's very unlikely that animals are killed by plastic bags. The evidence just shows the opposite. We are not going to solve the problem of waste by focusing on plastic bags. So to assume that plastic bags are the real animal killers is actually a very big overstatement. People should actually focus their attention on other plastic necessities like ropes, fishing gear, traps, and plastic straps that you find like on Gatorades and Coke bottles and things like that. Lastly, taxing plastic bags seemed to bring a small income boost that she had stated that would have been a $4 trillion industry. It's actually a $4 trillion bag industry. There's approximately 4 trillion bags that are released. However, it's a $3 to $5 billion industry. Because like he stated earlier, nothing makes so much money. So So with taxing plastic bags, people don't think about it, but there's actually a negative impact. It would take small businesses out of businesses, and then it would also put a strain on families who barely make it as it is. So if you have a family that goes and that they barely have enough to buy groceries and stuff, they already have to worry about within buying the food. Then they also have to worry about spending money on plastic bags. Like, no. According to multiple sources such as the NCPA, alternate.org, and inspirationgreen.com, they all have said that the plastic industry is, like I mentioned, $3 to $4 billion. So, and then there's also, according to the bag ban, they also state the consequences are very, very severe. Like I said, small businesses might go out of business. So bag taxes can lead to small business layoffs. In LA County, stores inside the ban area were focused to terminate staff, sometimes more than 10%. In contrast, stores outside the ban areas actually increased employment by 2.4%. Another statement from that source says food prices continues to skyrocket marketing now, especially in the worst time, to raise grocery bills with an extra tax. The USDA reported that in 2013 there were 17.5 million U.S. households that were food insecure. The focus of our elected officials should be solving the food insecurities and not harming the economy by extensiving and banning or taxing plastic bags. In other words, like I mentioned, there are two big consequences. Businesses may go out of business, and little small families that have struggles are just gonna amount on the struggles that they already have. So in conclusion, even though taxing plastic bags may seem like a good idea on lowering pollution, help save the wildlife, and help the economy, there are other areas that need to be shed light on when it comes to the assumption of using plastic bags.
All right, you ID the claim, you outline what the secondary points were that the advocate talked about, and then you follow that structure pretty well. That whole first point, you use the term population. I don't really know that population is what was being talked about there. I think it's mostly air pollution that's being talked about there. And you did have good statistical information on that particular subject, so that made a lot more sense. You talked about how it's got lower greenhouse gases. It uses less resources than the alternative paper bags. I thought that worked pretty effectively at making that point and responding to the advocate's point. I think you could do a little bit more contrast in terms of what the advocate's evidence and argument was on that point, and then compare your argument. I'm kind of having to think back and try to remember what they said on that particular point, but I know that your argument here is pretty good. Like I said, I'm just not sure how it contrasts to what the advocate said on that point. On the second point, the labeling is good also. And here, basically, you've got a counter-causality argument that you're presenting. So it's really a challenge to the reasoning. The advocate suggests that the plastic bags are the source of all the animal problems when it comes to dying. And you're suggesting that, the bags are not the issue. It's other plastic debris that is creating these particular problems. A lot of it is fishing gear, but there are other plastic issues in the environment, and they're much more likely to suffer as a consequence of those sorts of things rather than the plastic bags. And I like the fact that you had evidence that would normally be considered reluctant testimony, like the Australian research and the Greenpeace citation, that seemed to suggest the exact opposite of what the advocate is talking about. And again, I think we could use a little bit of contrast to the advocate's point. What evidence did they have on that particular point compared to the evidence that you're presenting here? I think you need to do a little bit more contrasting on that. And then on the tax issue, you repeat twice how big the industry is, and the second time you give us a source for that. I don't know how important that is. The bigger argument is how important is the tax issue. And your last point really seems to be a suggestion that says any additional tax is potentially problematic for families that are, they're in a danger zone when it comes to whether or not they're able to survive and get by. And you're suggesting, well, this additional tax is going to be a problem for them, and that would be problematic. I think that's a counterclaim. When they talked about it's going to be a benefit to the economy, I don't know about that. And then you've got the last piece of evidence that says in LA County that it had a negative effect, that people were being terminated I didn't really get a source citation on that, and the context is not as clear as it could be, but the idea of the argument, I think, is the right argument, and again, you need to contrast a little bit to what the advocate's argument was on that point. All right, thank you. Let's see, stop.